Sweet bejesus, it's Linux Thursday with me, your host. I don't know. I don't have a real thing for Linux Thursday anymore. You know how you start a show with like a thing, like, oh, this week, all that garbage, right? Like,
yeah, right.
We don't do that one, but like, it just, you come up with a thing and you say a thing, and like for a while I was like, it's Thursday, but like, it's Saturday. We're recording this on Saturday. Like, right? I can only lie to myself so many times before it begins to eat away at my soul, because it's not Thursday. I mean, it's Linux Thursday, dudes and dudettes. That's Matt Hartley, because you can't have a Thursday without Matt Hartley. I'm pretty sure that's a law in Connecticut, along with the whole ice cream in the back pocket and no Matt Hartley, unless it's a Thursday or whatever it is. Brought to you in part by Pogo Linux at PogoLinux.com, who make amazing servers. They have these like modular Intel servers now that are just like drool worthy rad. Like, it's ridiculous.
Awesome.
So it's so funny because like I've got this big pogo rig behind me, right? Which is amazing, right?
It's a monster. It's awesome too.
But like I go to pogolinux.com regularly with no intentions of buying things, just to drool over like theoretical configurations. So I was in there, and they've got like these kind of newer modular Intel ones, right? And and I was like, well, what all can I do with them? Can I put in like a petabyte of RAM? Like I think you can. Like, it's ridiculous.
You know how you do that? You go in there and be like,
it's like, not a petabyte. Wait. Sorry, petabyte of storage, terabyte of RAM. I think
that would still be a lot. Yeah, but I think you're ridiculous. Like, oh wait, there's more. But wait, there's more, and you're like raising your voice as you make each selection. Your head just slowly explodes in a slow motion thing.
Yeah, I actually started out like they have this 1U rack mount like Linuxy Intel-y server, right? And like, oh, that's cool. And like, I can't remember how much it was. It was like $2,000 or something like that. Like a reasonable price for that kind of rack mount server, right? But I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like tinkering with it, and I'm like, but what if I want the most expensive processor on the planet? I'm like 30 of them. Oh, I can max out the RAM with lots of RAM. Okay. How close can I get to a petabyte all on SSD? Like, by that point, it was nowhere near that nice, like, reasonable price. Oh man, it's just so rad. Anyway, pogolinux.com. Like, if you need like a server or workstation or something, go check them out. And of course, Linode, if you don't want to be doing your own hosting and whatnot, go to linode.com/Lunduke, or I believe it's Lunduke Cyber Week, I believe is the deal. You go to linode.com/Lunduke Cyber Week quickly. Like, I think it just like today or tomorrow or something, you can get like $100 of Linode credit, which like, can you imagine how far that goes on like a VPS? Like $100, $100 will run your VPS forever.
I say, it's like, oh, I've been meaning to set up that home lab. Here you go. Just do it on a VPS. Yeah. Why provision hardware when you can let someone else do it and do it like reliably?
And you can do it with like almost every Linux distro, right? Like Linode has like pre-built images for like everything. Plus, like if you want like a Nextcloud, I believe there's like a Nextcloud image thing already you can grab and put on Linode. And so you can just spin up your own Nextcloud box. I mean, yeah, if you're running a VPS for a Nextcloud as a purely backup box, you're probably not going to have like 3,000 petabytes of storage. But for like a good 50 gig storage based system where you can throw all your stuff on Nextcloud, then you barely have to even administer it. Like, what a good deal. Anyway,
it's like, hey, Grandma, instead of sending me email forwards, put it here. Put it on Nextcloud.
Drop it here so it doesn't fill up my email. On a related note, my email filled up this last week. That's a real thing that happened. Like,
my gosh.
So it was shortly after like I did my departed Purism. Like, for those you know, I'm not involved with Purism anymore. And I left Purism, and I just stopped getting email. I'm like, wow, like I'm just not popular at all anymore. No one loves me.
No spam, no nothing. Just
And yeah, that's when it hit me. Like, I hadn't gotten any spam in like 20 hours. And I'm like, wait a minute. I get like 3,000 spam emails every minute. Like, how is this possible? So I went and checked it out, and yeah, like I was all full. I had so many gigaflops of emails filling up my drive. My email server was like, forget it. You're just not allowed to get email anymore.
You're done now. You're done.
I wasn't expecting that. All right. Before we get into all the questions, you guys know how this works. You ask us a boatload of Linuxy questions, and we give you a steaming pile of Linuxy answers. But before we get into those, we got to ask the question on everyone's mind. Matt Hartley, when you look at your computer right now in front of you, is it still running PCLinuxOS? Oh yeah, fully up to date too. Just ran updates a little bit ago. So the honeymoon period's got to be over at this point. Oh yeah, it's totally over. You're past the honeymoon, and you still have you thought about running screaming to the warm embrace of like another distro? No, actually, a matter of fact, I had Matt Hartley. Not even once. I had a Plex box because I needed systemd. I had a Plex box that I needed to have set up. So I did one of those Ubuntu derivative type deals after frustrating myself because I got lazy. A PCLinuxOS has made me lazy because it just kind of works. But, the distro I was using, maybe not so much for Plex. I finally got it up and running, but I really came to appreciate how much nicer this is. There's no PPAs. There's no reaching out for rando packages. It's just in the repos. I don't think about PPAs, no rando packages.
I don't have to think about I don't even have to think about how I back up my computer because it's already done for me. I literally just don't even worry about it. It's like, great.
That's pretty rad. That's pretty rad.
I'm running, what is it? Time Shift. Yeah, I'm running Time Shift. And it's great.
What's the desktop environment version you're running?
Mate, always Mate.
You're a Mate
just because,
guy.
and
you like GNOME. You like old school GNOME.
I do like old school GNOME. I also like working Bluetooth, and KDE is a little finicky in that world. So, Blue Man works really well, whereas the KDE applet maybe not so much.
Totally right. Yeah. You're right. What is that? I no matter how many times I try it, Bluetooth and KDE. I mean, it shouldn't have anything to like this. Shouldn't. It shouldn't have any bearing on that.
Because you can do it in command line pretty easily. You can acquire and pair and all that
through the UI in KDE. You just can't do it anyway. So Matt Hartley. So I've still got PCLinuxOS on a laptop.
Nice.
On my old Lenovo, whatever.
Good choice.
My cheapo Lenovo.
Right.
It's fantastic. It is. It's running really nicely. I had a little bit of problem with battery life initially, but you apply a couple of tweaks.
I was going to say. Oh, sorry. Just before I forget, I have a PowerTop script that I run at every boot that just handles it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I basically just created that because a battery life on anything that's not like Ubuntu Mate, for example, which has like something TLP I think installed by default.
It does TLP by default.
Yeah. So in this particular case with PCLinuxOS, I just did a PowerTop script that I run, and it worked great. I just run it up in the the RC local,
or just get TLP on there. Whatever you want to do. There's like a bunch of ways to do it really at this point. But that was my only issue with it. It was fast. It was working great. All the hardware was working. I didn't have to think about anything. It's great. I don't know if I'm going to put it on anything else other than that laptop, but it's pretty tight. I mean, I'm not going to change that distro right now.
Oh, and I don't have to upgrade anything. So just saying, I don't have to think. Oh yeah, that next release is coming up. I don't care.
Dumb. Upgrading is dumb.
Boring.
All right. Now we're going to get into the first real question here, and this came from Chris Titus. Who runs the YouTube channel Chris Titus Tech. Now, Chris Titus, nice guy. He had a video where he proclaimed that Ubuntu is the devil. I don't know if you guys saw. This was like a half year ago or something like that. But he hasn't stopped catching flack for that since then. So I put out the call for questions for Linux Thursday, and Chris Titus right there is Ubuntu the devil. He wants to know definitively. He wants to know from Hartley and Lunduk, is Ubuntu the devil? Now, I did a Twitter poll to get some other people's opinions, and we're just going to go ahead and show you guys this right now. I asked people, point blank, is Ubuntu the devil? No other text, no other words. The options were yes, no, and jury is still out. Yes got 15% of the vote.
Interesting.
No got 53% of the vote. And here's the part that struck me as interesting. That means that jury is still out got 32% of the vote.
I feel like that's kind of a lazy vote, though, right? Because it's like, I don't want to commit to a decision, so
but that means that at least 47% of people, those surveyed, this survey wasn't huge. It was like 600 people. Though, to be fair, a survey of 600 people, I've been doing a lot of like survey, analysis stuff lately, trying to figure some stuff out. And I've been looking into it. Most of the polls that they do for like election results have less than 600 people in it. A lot of times they'll literally have like 400 people. Like, so people will be yelling on the news, this politician is 54% of the popularity. And I'm like, wait a minute, 54% of the popularity you polled, which means that like 200 people said they liked that person. Like, how is it possible to get really scientific? This is ridiculous. And I hear the statisticians out there screaming at their screen right now for various reasons.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's fine.
I'm sure.
But anyway, 32% of the people thought when they're like, hey, is Ubuntu the devil? I'm not sure. It seems possible, but they weren't sure yet. I'm like, wow, that was a higher number than I expected. I thought there'd be like 10% of the people would say yes just to be snarky. And then like 10% of the people might say jury is still out just to be snarky, and the rest would say no, right? But like
you would think.
But no. Ubuntu is the devil. No was the answer by a 3% margin. 3%. How is that even possible? I mean,
that is so wild.
I mean, neither of us are running Ubuntu right now. But it's not bad. It's not the devil.
No, like I said, like I was saying earlier, I run it on a Plex box, so it can't be that bad.
Well, as soon as I said it's not the devil, you immediately responded with,
well, yeah, it's like, is it like one of the lower tier demons? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, that's debatable.
What about like the demon servants? Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, I mean, it's, I don't have any problem with it. They provide a service and a product that I do use for that. And that's pretty much all I use it for.
Occasionally, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I got to do a thing with systemd. I'll just use that. I mean, it's fine. I'm not going to, I do LTS. I don't have to ever think about it for a long time. Yeah. Because I don't want to deal with it. For the that's why I do the rolling release thing now. I don't want to deal with that. So,
just to reinforce that, if anyone's out there thinking, I'm going to grab the latest Ubuntu release, don't. Wait unless you're a developer working on the project or something, just wait until the LTS comes out. Man, that has bit me so many times with Ubuntu, going with the non-LTS versions, because like they'll do the thing where they update and all of a sudden Xorg stops working, or you get caught in a boot loop. Gosh, boot loops have been a constant problem for me with Ubuntu non-LTS versions dating back for like a decade.
Seriously.
It just comes up often. So just stick with LTS, and Ubuntu's amazing. It's a good distro. It's not a problem. But is it the devil? My guess is I'm going to go on the record and say no, it's not the devil. Maybe Matt Hartley's right about a devil.
No, I think it's fine. I think it serves a purpose. Honestly, my biggest gripe is just a matter of logistics. If you go LTS, you're not going to have the latest kernel. That can be kind of a pain. I don't have that problem on my distro, but I know those Ubuntu folks, they got to consider that and be like, oh God, I got to get a PPA to do the thing so I can get the latest thing. And, that must be really frustrating. I don't have that problem. But, those of you guys that do, that's a
little bit of
hearts up to you, man. Hearts up.
OS
my heart is exploding for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's a fine distro. There's really nothing wrong with it. I mean, up until recently, I was running Ubuntu on like my studio machine here, and
if left alone, it's stable.
It's good.
I mean,
right? Yeah, I'm a big fan of taking Ubuntu LTS releases, getting everything you want on it, and just turning off updates. All of them, because even like you turn on the kernel updates, sometimes that can bork up an Ubuntu release. But once you get it stable, just leave it. Just turn those updates off. It's fantastic. So Chris Titus, hate to burst your bubble, buddy. That was a lot of alliteration, but that's probably not good.
For everyone listening, let's make sure we get this right. According to Brian, hey, Ubuntu is great. Just don't run updates. Never update your computer.
Don't run updates. Then again, running updates on computer. No, I'm telling
security
you, man.
You can do security updates. Let it be seamless. Leave it alone. It'll still break occasionally. It will, but not as much. But see, here again, If you have time shift, you
want to be secure.
You just roll back. Done.
Just take your computer offline. It's not a problem. And
everyone's like, a fad.
Well, it is a fad. Next question. Jeremy Kaufman. So Jeremy Kaufman is I think he's the CEO of Library. He's like the head honcho over there, one of the founders. Cool. Jeremy asks, what are the most supported package types for a company looking for maximal adoption among Linux users? Is a company like Library really expected to release deb, snap, AppImage, Flatpak, RPM, and more? He only had one question mark at the end there. I assume as he wrote it, he had several question marks and a couple exclamation points and like a gun emoji or something, because he's probably pissed off because supporting like 18 different package formats is enough to drive any man to insanity.
It would. Yeah.
So really, okay. So what are the most supported, and what should companies like this do? Companies like Library who are building something, what should they do?
Well, let's separate most supported with best, because they're very different things.
They're super different.
Yeah. So I'm not even going to touch most supported, because that's the wrong question to ask. What you need to ask is, I have XYZ distro and I want to run a thing. Yeah. And I want to make it easy. That's easy. It's called, and because of what this is, because of the type of software it is. Oh, you know exactly where it's going. Yeah. But because of the type of software it is, because it's not going to present a big security headache or anything else, just do an app image. You're not really worried about keeping it up to date. And if it doesn't work anymore, you go get a new app image. Honestly, that's the easiest thing to use.
And you can build in if it's an app image, because for everyone.
Oh, you can do an updater. Yeah.
Here's a quick overview of this, just a real quick version for those unfamiliar. So you get the standard package file formats like Debian and RPM, and there's a couple others as well, but Deb and RPM are the main ones. Sure. Those ones, every library, every application, every wallpaper tends to be its own Fargan package, right? That Fargan has like 12 Gs in it, and
so much Fargan.
They are their own packages, and they're all interrelated with each other, and you typically get those from a repository that is nothing more than an HTTP, not over HTTPS web server. It's funny, I get yelled at for not using HTTPS, but for Debian, it's fine apparently. And then you've got the containerized ones, and they aren't really containerized so much. They're just basically single files or single groups of files that look like files. Snap, AppImage, and Flatpak. Now, Snap and Flatpak are more sandboxy, right? So they present a sandbox around things so that the applications, unless you grant them access, can't read and write a bunch of files elsewhere. It's pretty much the gist of it. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the important part for end users. Yeah. Now, Snap and Flatpak do make it a little bit easier to install things, but they still have a lot of dependencies outside of themselves on the core systems, which makes them a little bit less fragile than, say, an RPM file, but way more fragile, as in they can be broken through other software updates than AppImage. Sure. AppImage doesn't have that sandboxing. An AppImage application is literally an ISO file, like a CD-ROM or flash drive .iso, that's just laid out and scripted in such a way that if you set it as an executable, when you auto mount it, boom, it just auto runs the application. It has all the libraries, or at least like 90% of the libraries it needs, baked into the ISO. Yep. So Matt's right. If you're just releasing one thing, it should be an app image.
Right. And it's not a piece of security software. I mean, it's literally for video. So it's whatever. It doesn't need, you don't have to worry about, and making it work's real difficult. You right click on it, make it executable, and then click on it.
And then double click and you're done. Right. It makes the instructions for end users easy. Yeah. And app images work on the vast majority of Linux distributions. In fact, if there's a modern Linux distribution out there that doesn't work with app image, it's because they had to work real hard to make sure it didn't work with app image. Like, it's just so simple. They don't have to install this big snappy thing. There's no Flatpak store and series of applications to support it. And app image works out of the box on all distros. That's why it's so cool.
The best feature of all, beyond all else, for example, Kdenlive. It's an app. It's provided as an app image. I have 4 versions on my computer right now that I can run at any time.
Yes. So, and you need those.
You really do.
In fact, this is outside of library, right? Outside of if you're a developer, just for an end user being able to get an app image for an application, you can keep it forever. And it's going to work on your current distro, and it's probably going to work on the distro you have 5 years from now.
Yep.
That's what makes it really cool. In fact, it works so well for archiving applications. A lot of the people that work on AppImage, who are some fans of this show, I might add, have built like old web browsers, early Netscape, Mosaic, etc., into app images. Because if you want to run, let's say, NCSA Mosaic on Linux, it was made available for Linux.
Yeah.
It does not run on any modern distro because the libraries are so out of date. Linux has a big problem with planned obsolescence. We do planned obsolescence on purpose in the Linux community every second of every day because we have everything broken apart into individual packages, and they're reliant on specific versions of those packages. So the moment you update a distro or a set of libraries, half your other stuff breaks. And most people don't notice it, because the distro maintainers work so hard to keep that transparent for at least a few distro releases. But if you go back 15, 20 years or 30 years, you can get applications. Or maybe not 30 years, but close to it. But you can get those applications and you can put them in an app image and run them on modern distros. That means you can get the games and the applications and your LibreOffice, whatever, and put them in an app image, and you can have that exact version with that exact functionality, that exact look and feel, those exact libraries working 10 years from now, probably even 20 years from now. So if you're archiving applications, you should be using AppImage over the other options, because the other options don't meet that need. The other options have more security or other features that are really cool that AppImage does not have. But AppImage, come on.
It's pretty great.
It's so great.
Now, I will put a pin in it and say there is one thing to be considered. That does not mean that all the applications on your computer should be app images. That's a terrible idea. That's awful. I because I like to have a I like to have a distro that, I mean, as far as the basics anyway. I mean, you don't really need an app image of Chrome and Firefox and this and that. It gets a little out of control because it gets a little bloaty. But
it does get bloaty because you're loading. If you have like 10 copies of KDNLive running, you're not utilizing the same set of libraries across each. You're loading a new instance of each set of libraries.
You're basically running separate ISOs, right? I mean,
yeah, you are. Yeah, it uses a lot more RAM that way. But I personally, and this is a separate topic, but I like the idea, and there's a few out there that are doing this a little bit, but I like the idea of having the core operating system applications like your file browser, your maybe a text editor and a terminal, and maybe like 2 or 3 other things be installed through like a standard package manager or no package manager at all, because package managers are dumb. Yeah, I said that. I know. That's not going to be a popular opinion among this room.
It presents a discoverability issue, but that's okay.
A huge discoverability issue. But I like the idea of everything else on a modern system, on a high RAM system, being app images. Like I have umpteen gigawatts of RAMs in this guy,
same.
right? So I very rarely use half the RAM in my computer, very rarely. Right. And so I like having KDNLive, OBS, LibreOffice, app images. I would like to have my browsers as app images, because honestly, there are some things that like current Firefox is good at, but suck at. And I would like to be able to have app images, and I do have app images of Netscape and so many other browsers, and I load them up when I want to use them. Right.
I
feel like I should be able to do that. Modern Linux distributions hate people being able to use old versions of software. It goes against the very ethos, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. I'm off on a tangent. I don't mean that as a bad thing against the browser maintainer or the distro maintainers.
Right.
But that is against their morals, their philosophies. You always should have the latest and greatest. You always should have the latest of what's in the repositories. And that's how Linux distro maintainers work. That's how their brains work. And I don't blame them for that. But I prefer, honestly, no updates unless I purposely go in and package them and install them. I personally prefer grabbing an app image of the exact version of the exact piece of software I want and run it. I don't care. I'll go grab it from their website. I'll go up to firefox.org.edu.kdnlive and grab that and click it, and that's the version of Firefox I'm getting.
So two things I want to mention here.
Tell me all the ways I'm wrong. Lay it on me, baby. Lay it on me.
So first, I don't think you're wrong on the developer point of view, but I would add in, I think another concern is security. I think maybe they mostly not, but from a selfish point of view of,
no, you're right.
Now they're going to go to the forum and they're going to be like, this thing's insecure because I caught him, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think that's selfishly why, but that's just my opinion.
Totally right. You're totally right about that.
App images are awesome, but here's where, like, when I install software, I generally will do, like, when I do a new system, I do like 12 to 13 things at the same time.
Yeah.
So unless you have some sort of mechanism to automate that app image experience, you know, that does present a challenge. So from my lazy point of view, I like to say, all right, because like for me, it's Tilde Synapsis. I'm probably going to want Synergy on there. Let's see what else. I want to make sure the Pulse Audio volume control is included. All this stuff, that you know.
The basics have installed by default. And then just have the RISC-V app images. It's sort of like, honestly, this is one of the things that Macintoshes have always done right. In my opinion. Not DMG files necessarily, but like the way, especially in old school Macs, applications were standalone files, not folders pretending to be a file. They were actual single files. Like you get a full Office suite in a file, maybe a few templates over here or something. But so when you install it by having it, applications are by default always installed. Because if you have them, you can double click on them and they run. And that's what App Image gives you. It gives you a lot of that ease of use ability, and not just ease of use, but ease of laying things out how you want them. If you want to put all of your applications on your desktop, you can. If you want to put all of your applications inside a folder in your home folder, literally called "My Applications Go Here, Dog," that you can. If you don't use App Image and you try and move all your application binaries and put them where you want to put them, your system will break.
Yeah, but at the same time,
it will blow chunks at you. It will go. It will go full into Blair. It will spin around on its head and hurl split pea soup at you.
Just straight up Exorcist on it. I get it, but so here's the thing: like you go to buy a laptop at insert big box store here. You know they're passing off these little 8 gigabyte RAM jobs. As far as the getting like it's like maybe 16 if you're lucky, but generally it's about around 8. I don't want to run app images in like 3/4 of that. Right? It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like, there's a case for having both. I think it's like, all right, look, we're going to include this software by default. It ain't the latest. It ain't the greatest. It might even suck, but that's okay. We're also going to do an app image as well. Now, for applications that are like, like video related, Kdenlive, that sort of thing. Yeah, it makes total sense. But I just can't see browsers the Office suite, there's an argument for having that in app image. I would give you this. But for browsers and whatnot, no.
I'm going to throw this out there right now. So aside from my web browser, which is eating 17 terabytes of RAM and currently devouring the souls of everyone in Arkansas, aside from web browsers, I currently have in use roughly 2.8 gigs of RAM. I'm looking at this right now. That is among an instance of LibreOffice with two slide decks open, OBS currently recording the file, and DOSBox. DOSBox is just open in the background. That's not taking a lot of RAM, but along with the entire system. Now, if I and my LibreOffice is inside an app image. And if I load up Kdenlive, that'll be a couple hundred more megs, right? It's not too big. But that app image, the majority of RAM from Kdenlive is not from the libraries that load up. It's from the working RAM that it needs to do all the video editing, right? So realistically, we're not talking about using up gigs and gigs of more RAM. If you add together the superfluous extra versions of libraries that are getting loaded because you have everything in app image, you're talking about, even if you have 2 or 3 dozen applications open, you're talking about at most a couple hundred megabytes at most, which is a lot in my opinion, because in my opinion, having more than a couple hundred megabytes is ridiculous, and I'm a ridiculous person for having it. But if we're really talking about in a system where we want to have more than, say, 8 gigs of RAM, the difference between app image and, say, Deb or Flatpak or Snap is negligible at best when you really sit down and look at it. So you're not. Okay. So the files are larger.
Sure, that's fine.
It encourages you. It encourages you to have more versions of app images just in case, like you want to go back to an older version of the application. So you're gonna use a lot more storage space.
Right.
But it's still we're talking about maybe a couple of gigs of storage and a couple hundred megs of RAM, and while that's a lot in Lunduke terms, that's not a lot in most pro computer user terms. You know what I mean? Like,
it's true. That's true. That being said, Flatpak, for example, app images, whatnot, sometimes it can be a little problematic with external devices like audio, sometimes with video. Certain connection kits, things like that. They can get a little funky.
It gets really problematic.
Yeah, I mean, you can toss in some arguments and whatnot and go in the other direction. But I mean, for the most part, that's something I consider. So I would say this:
they are more secure. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They restrict an application's ability to access your system resources, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. It just is. It makes your things more secure, but it also makes them work less well. And it also makes it harder to update. I like app images a lot for what they
Final
do.
point on app images: why doesn't OBS have one? That's all I have to say. So
I would be running OBS in an app image.
I would too. Yeah, because I'm kind of done with that.
Right. The things that are mission critical that you need to work now and you need it to work a month from now after you applied an Xorg update should be in an app image.
Exactly.
Just end of story. And many Linux distro maintainers come out and yell about this because they hate it, because they feel like it's less secure and you shouldn't be going to websites to grab applications. Well, that's like a Windows user. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of, but we don't have horrible. We're not talking about a horrible, awful install shield thing that installs like 18 different Internet Explorer toolbar junkets. We're talking about an app image, guys. We're talking about an ISO where the libraries are bundled with the application. That's it. It's not that big of a deal.
One last thing is there's actually one developer I know of. He actually helps develop the operating system I'm running right now that actually says, well, why would I do that? There's an app image for it. Actually, that's stupid. No, you get Steam on a Flatpak. We're done. I don't need to include that. That's awesome. So there's that.
That too. So there you go, Jeremy. I like app images. They're a great way to go. And plus, for an app developer, the update your app image functionality is fairly simple, because what you're talking about is a piece of feature in the application that all it has to do is go download the new ISO and put it somewhere, and then you can have a script where you close your current image and launches the script to launch the other one. That's it. That's your update process. There's nothing else.
And some PCLinuxOS stuff actually is app image based, and that's how it runs. It actually comes included like that, which is cool.
That's fantastic.
So there you go.
If it works, great. Do it. Aaron Prisk wants to ask, what's currently the best video editor on Linux? Kdenlive, Olive, Shotcut, something else? I have my answer.
If you value a workflow that doesn't make you want to rip your face off, I like Kdenlive.
Same.
If you're looking for power and features, DaVinci.
DaVinci is nice.
DaVinci's great if you want to literally just get up here and peel back the skin off your face. It's horrible workflow. Awful. But
I would say also to throw into that, throw Blender into that as well, because you can do everything in Blender that you can do in DaVinci or Kdenlive. For most people.
That's true. That's true. And
it's incredibly powerful, and in terms of raw abilities, it's way more powerful than Kdenlive. But the whole face peel off thing, it's up there. Blender has gotten a lot easier to use over the years. And I don't know if that's that I keep going back to it, trying to learn it a little bit more every time, and so now I'm just more comfortable with it, or they've really improved it. I'm not 100% certain, but Kdenlive, it works most of the time.
I've tried Lightworks. That was the worst 3 minutes of my life.
Lightworks was awful.
I tried DaVinci for 5 minutes. That was a record for me. I was like, I'm gonna commit to this, and then I never went back because I just didn't care.
DaVinci's not bad. I spent a little more time with it, but it's better than like Cinelara or something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. That's some good times. Good times.
the reality is we actually have a lot of, and there's PTV and there's so many just random video editors available for Linux. But if you need something to get the job done, what most people are looking for is encompassed in KDE-Live. The only downside with KDE-Live is there are some releases they have that just explode at you, like that just and like Medusa, and you turn to stone. It's awful. And so do the thing where you grab the app images, find a specific version that works really well for you, and never delete that app image again. And keep it like so I know the Linux Gamer does this too.
Yeah.
He does all his work in KDE-Live when he can, and he has like 2 specific versions, I believe, or something like that, of KDE-Live that he likes. And he's like, oh, this KDE-Live is breaking again, back to the old app image.
Right.
And that's how you do it. KDE-Live is my way to go. It's a good piece of software. It works really well when it works. Clayton Rigo asks, who dreams of a future of RISC-V? Do you dream of RISC-V when you close your eyes at night? Are you like, ooh, RISC-V?
I'm literally closing my eyes and thinking, no. I'm really not.
But open processors, man.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I think it's cool. Yeah. I'm also I'm a very angry, cynical sort, so I have to balance out my rage with that. Yeah, I'm a little cynical.
Yeah, you're a little Bruce Bannery in there. That's your secret. You're always angry. You got that going on. I know.
I feel like a kind of a cross between the Incredible Hulk and Tiny Rick. But yeah, that would be cool.
Rick
Tiny
reference.
Hulk. Tiny Hulk.
Oh man.
Right?
The Incredible Tiny Rick Hulk.
I would watch that.
I would watch that. I would play the video game spinoff, no doubt. So I'm excited for it, but I think Matt's skepticism and whatnot is not misplaced. There are companies that are pumping out RISC-V based processors. The fact that it's an open design means other people can implement changes on top of it, which is both good and bad, because it means that you can have RISC-V that differs from each other in feature set and abilities that in a very extreme way. Yeah. But it is also open, which means we have some of the same benefits we get from Linux, where maybe some open changes that one company makes, and another company could come along and be like, well, thanks for publishing those open changes you made. That's helpful too. We'll incorporate those. So maybe that'll help it progress faster. But as of right now, RISC-V takes a lot of power, takes a lot of heat last I saw, and you're not going to get the same performance you're going to get on like an Intel or an AMD processor. That said, it's an open thing, which means you don't have the built-in Intel management engine or the AMD equivalent, or they jam an entire 486 processor running Minix inside of this inside of the current Intel CPUs, which is annoying. Yeah. But I mean,
so here's how I see it succeed. Honestly, and I didn't mean to jump on you there, but here's how I see it succeeding. We get more of that stupid Intel behavior, just a little bit more, enough to where some companies get really done with it, to where they're like, okay, we're done. We've had it. We're dumping millions of dollars into repair and fixing and patching and screaming and hollering. We're done. We're going to now take those same dollars we've been dumping into it and put it in this open processor, because quite frankly, at least we have a say in some, working from the ground up as to how this is going to be developed. That's what I see happening, because quite frankly, it's going to take a strong corporation or a strong foundation, a nonprofit foundation that's getting funding from somewhere, because it takes money to run these things. It does.
It takes a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, even, just what it is. So,
and one of the big things where we got benefits like on the Intel and AMD and even on the ARM side and whatnot is that over time the engineering process got better, so we were able to shrink the die. We were able to get down to smaller and smaller nanometers, and we were able to get smaller, faster chips. And this is great. RISC-V is kind of new at that. So it's kind of more at the beginning of that cycle, which means it's kind of hard to compare. You almost have to compare RISC-V against first generation Pentiums. You know what I mean? Like it's more on that line in terms of where it is in the product life cycle. And the other thing that I think we need to consider is with RISC-V right now, we're going to get less speed. We just are. But if you look at like processor benchmarks for like our side of things, Linux is like crazy slower now than it was a couple years ago. Like crazy
That's true.
slower.
That's a good
like
point.
Massively. So if you just simply go back to like version 2.6 of the Linux kernel and port it over to RISC-V, how much of the speed differentiation does that make up? Like, it doesn't have to be 2.6, but you know what I mean. Like, you go over to before we started having all the workarounds for the heartbleeds and the IMEs and the everything else. Before we had those workarounds in place that caused such a massive performance degradation in Linux, what if we use a slightly older version, put it on RISC-V, or really just a version that just doesn't have those workarounds, put it on RISC-V? Does that make up enough of the difference? And my guess is no, but it gets us at least a part of the way there.
So I will see that bet, and I will actually raise you a stake and say, I believe, much like Linux as over the years taking on Windows, Windows had a huge head start, and we kept going. I think that's naturally what will happen as we continue to see Intel having to make these sacrifices in speed, performance, and just overall sucking. And I group AMD as well. I think we might see some little bit coming up over time.
I don't know. See, it's hard because it's a very mixed bag, right?
Sure.
Some of the stuff you see coming out of Intel and AMD is amazing. Like some of their advances in processor technology and their processor fabrication means that we have insanely fast processors nowadays. It's bonkers. I mean, when you can start using just your raw CPU to process like 8K video without even breaking a sweat, well, you've got something serious going on. And so I'd say that there are issues with the Intel and the AMD processors, like with the security and like management engines and things like that. But they're pushing forward so fast in the R&D in the other areas that there's a lot. They're moving forward speed-wise faster than RISC-V seems to be.
True, but there's a cap to that. Eventually, I mean, short of
Moore's
bending
law
time and
kicks in
space
fully, and
once that happens, eventually we're going to see it
that
kinda,
noise.
it's going to make a noise. And it's going to, and it'll be whoopee cushion mode, and whoopee cushion mode trumps Intel and AMD. So
you
there
just
it
see
is.
like
Science.
Like one of the VPs at Intel walks in the CEO's office, like, look, we got a problem. Did you see what RISC-V did? It went like this. And the Intel CEO's like, no, it went, and they're like, yeah, and we need to go. We haven't in a long time.
And then the commercial cuts to RISC-V.
RISC-V.
We're not.
So to answer your question, Clayton,
There you go,
I'm excited about a future where processors are open. I think that's rad, because then if there's an open specification, we can go with the fabrication facility or the manufacturer using that specification that we want to. And I like that. And I like that a lot. We do have you'll notice I don't have any RISC-V equipment around here.
I don't
and it's because we don't have presently good available RISC-V hardware that meets the various needs that I have. Once we do, you know what? I'll probably get RISC-V. Like, there's a RISC-V like laptop or something like that. Like, yeah, I want that. I don't even know why I want that, and I want that. So I think there's a big future for it, but I think it's like 30 years away. Honestly, I think the big future in RISC-V is when Intel and AMD adopt RISC-V as an open architecture and just compete on fabrication terms.
You know what I see happening? Google or Microsoft having enough of it, and Google being the most likely candidate.
And just saying this is our processor now.
Yeah, because that's kind of what they do with kind of like everything.
But see,
I can see them being like. I mean, they'll destroy it in some fashion, I'm sure.
They're going to destroy it. They're going to do what they do with Android, right? They're like, oh, look, an open system. Let's jury rig tons of features into it that are closed.
Yeah.
And then we're going to make it so every operating system we do depends on those jury rig closed features, so no one can then make a RISC-V processor ever again. And somehow Google does this 1,000,000 times and never gets struck down by the U.S. government for the obvious monopoly monopoly and antitrust violations that they have. We do it with Microsoft because they friggin' installed IE. Literally, we smack down Microsoft because they install a browser, and we don't do that with Google when they force people to use like online services that aggregate data. It's ridiculous.
Very simple reason why. And if you think about it real hard, I think you know what it is. Who has more access to your data, Microsoft or Google? And what would the government like to have access to for security purposes?
I know.
So you get a little bit of a free quid pro quo and a free pass, and just saying. It makes me grumpy too. Yeah,
makes me all grumpy. Now I want RISC-V, not made by Google, running on anything that just doesn't have the word Google in it. Dimitri asks, what is your right way to make personal backups? Considering prices of hosting providers like Linode, instability of fog services.
Okay.
I like that calling cloud services fog service. I like that that's catching on. And risks of storing everything at home. Considering all that, what's the right way for making personal backups? What would you recommend to people?
Very, very simple. First of all, there's no such thing as a backup unless you have two completely separate copies of it. One copy is not a backup. That's just
one copy is moving files. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So you have to have a minimum of two copies, or it's not a backup, and that's just the way I was always taught. All right. Secondly,
it's amazing how many people don't realize that. I see that all the time. Like companies, like, well, we have all those files in backup. Well, it's just on one tape. That's not a backup.
All our customers' data is on this flash drive. I think I paid $4.99 for it. It's fine, and believe me, I've had clients like that. It happens. Okay,
what Matt Hartley is saying is get two $4.99 flash drives.
Or splurge on the $6.99. I'm just saying, you can at least get one shaped like one of the little dancing dogs or something.
Oh
right?
Yeah, the race car ones. Those are cool.
Yeah,
all right, continue.
So first and foremost, let's talk about I borked my system and I want to restore, because there's multiple types of backup. There's a few different ways of going about it. You can clone the drive. You can do all these other things. I'm a big fan of using time shift simply because it's a quick and easy way just to get up and running. Nice. Yeah, you remove some libraries, you updated something that broke, you don't really care what happened. You just want to get up and running so you can figure it out later. Time shift's great for that. It's local, whatever, okay? That's just a getting up and running thing. If you're going to actually archive backup your stuff, I like to use rsync, and by using rsync, you can do that to an external drive over your network, to a NAS.
Yes.
If you want to kick it up a notch and really get hardcore like I do, rclone is an rsync tool that does this.
Use rclone.
If you got to get it to encrypt the data going back and forth takes a little more finesse, but it's doable. You can pick your cloud provider, whether that's Wasabi, Amazon.
Like that. That's nice.
You can use your own cloud. If you want to use own cloud, you can do that. I mean, you can use whatever you want, and I automate that. Yeah, it runs. I don't even think about it. I have it scripted to run, and it just kind of does stuff. And I check my cloud provider every once in a while. I'm like, yep, the date's changed. I'm doing great. Okay, cool. And I don't have any real concerns there. So I like doing it that way. So those are the two ways I recommend. Is I want to get my system back up and running after I screwed it up. Again, I think doing what I was talking about earlier is time shift's great for that. And then rclone it or rsync it elsewhere. Local. If you want to do 3, do rclone off to the cloud, and then you can do rsync off to your NAS or your other USB
spread
attached.
It around.
Whatever. Yeah, 3's good, better than 2. So that's what I would do. That's easy.
That's what Matt would do.
And I'm usually right, so.
See, now, here's
I don't have data loss. I'm just saying.
Here's the thing. You're about to get a second opinion here.
And you're wrong, but that's okay.
Before you seriously consider the Lunduke opinion, recognize that about these issues, Matt is usually right. In my opinion, if you've got files that are important to you, you should treat it like you're somewhere on the Australian outback in the not-too-distant post-apocalyptic future. We go Thunderdome around here. So here's the thing. Nextcloud, OwnCloud, those are great. Great. Automatic. Put your files in there and they just go off and get back up. That's great. I'm a big fan of FTPing those things around. Or SFTP if you want to use soon-to-be obsolete crypto technology that will force everything to stop working next year. Pick your files. If a file is important to you, you got a picture of your kid, you got a scanned copy of your lease or whatever.
Right.
Go FTP it to your server. Ta-da!
Yeah. So what you do is you take your driver's license, Social Security card, and birth certificate, along with all your credit cards, put them on your scanner, scan it, and then just FTP so the entire world
FTP
can. It's like identity theft without having to get out of your chair. It's kind of great.
How nice is that?
Right? I mean, you're thinking about other people's feelings. It's awesome.
Nice is that?
Pro tip.
No,
Keep personal data like that. Don't even I don't even do encrypted storage for that. I do that local and dead drop, but that's just me.
So I have the same thing. So for my personal data, it's on my local machines here. And unless it's like a situation where I have to like get that data to someone on the East Coast this afternoon because they need it, I don't let it touch the internet. It doesn't go on a Dropbox or a Nextcloud or an FTP or anything. That goes on an encrypted thumb drive. Done. And I mean, the files are encrypted. It's just all encrypted on it as best I can, and that gets dead dropped somewhere. Now I have and I keep one off site and one on site, and in theory I update the off site one. In practice, I update that one about once a quarter at most, which is not great, but that's what I do. What can you do? That's how I would go with it. Now, if you're looking at, though, like most of your files, like let's say pictures, right? Family pictures are kind of an interesting one because a lot of times you want to share them with your family. So A, you want to back up, and B, because you don't want to lose those things, and B, you want a way to be able to link it to like cousin Gladys who wants to check out your birthday picture or something, right? Sure. So I like things like Nextcloud because you can build into it a reasonable amount of security, right? I wouldn't put my Social Security stuff and everything else up there, but for family photos and like that kind of works. And if you're really talking about not having terabytes of data, then using a cloud provider is fine, but I would go with a VPS. And I would have your own system so that it's not, because like there are Nextcloud providers where they group all your files together and you get theoretically some semblance of security, but I would have your own VPS to give you that extra layer of security. So only you have your key, your public and private key and your password. You're the one that has access to it. And I would go with that route. And if you're doing that, a 50 gig VPS, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's not expensive. Like through Linode or somewhere else, it's not that expensive. Here's what you do. Try it out in a free way and see if it meets your needs. And if it does, then pay for it and so this is one of the reasons like I have the deal with Linode I do. So if you go to linode.com/Lunduk, it's $20, right? You sign up and you get $20. You don't have to pay anything. So then you can set up like a 5-10 gig whatever VPS, have Nextcloud on it, and use it for a month or two and see if it works for you. That $20 will pay for that. And then if you liked it, great, use Linode or switch to some other provider, whatever. But then you tried it, right? And you're set up. And if you didn't like the way that it worked, come up with a totally different solution. You're not out any money. That's like I have a Nextcloud server. I actually have 2 Nextcloud servers.
Smart.
And it's nice. And they replicate each other, well, one direction, so they don't accidentally screw
Autobots, Decepticons. I get it.
Right.
Okay,
and I have things backed up, and then I have my personal offsite backup, my Pogo Linux box right here. This one right there. That one has a backup. I have an 8 terabyte drive in there that is my backup drive. That is like my backup of everything that's also offsite. And then I have a thumb drive that's encrypted with all the really secure stuff.
Right. And if that was too many words for you,
most of it manually, realistically, but I like having the Nextcloud syncing around. Yeah, it's still nice.
Sure. So if this was too much information for you, here's a very easy way to remember it. Birthday pictures are cloud friendly. Birthday suit pictures are local friendly. If you can remember that, you're in good shape. That's all you got to know. It's very simple.
Yeah, don't put your
either
birthday
way.
suit pictures up on the Google or the iCloud or something.
No,
that's just a recipe for disaster.
That's unless you're that's a lifestyle choice we're not going to touch. But that's again private, not private, not private birthday suit. Birthday. Yeah.
Matt Hartley knows how this works. All right, we're already 53 minutes into the show. Let's see if we can wrap it at the hour mark.
Right.
We've got like a bunch of questions. Let's pick a good one. All right, so we got what's up with the prevalence and use of mascots in the open source community. I feel like we covered mascots recently.
Yeah, it's kind of whatever.
When Linux-based operating systems become more profitable, like bigger gaming market share, would companies consider open source driver development, or would the majority still stick to closed source? Maybe. Is there a resource listing apples to apples decentralized alternatives to popular social media and internet? Ooh, maybe. And then the other one we can choose from: how many different distributions, desktop environments, with how many there are, and methods of doing things we have in the Linux community. How do you maintain focus when trying something new? How do you know which way is the right way? Pick the question. You get to pick one.
I think the last one's the most palatable as far as picking the right distro. I feel like that's something everyone can. Well, I'm sorry, identifiable by choice words there. No, it just felt like it was more outreachy and friendly. So
all right. So with how many options there are? I mean, because there's a billion distros with a billion and three desktop environments, and then you're like, do I choose Snappy or Flatpak or App Image? And you have all these things to choose and ways to do things. How do you stay focused, and how do you know which way is the right way?
Well, I like to. It's kind of like a cross between distro watch and spin the bottle, and so. But and I don't mean that in the but I mean like literal bottle spinning, not the other one. So so you basically take out a list of distros from distro watch. You make a circle, and I'm serious. This is a really great way of doing this. This is actually how I ended up on the one I'm on now. I actually ended up on PCLinuxOS because of this.
Did you really? This is really how you got
not a literal sense. I actually went like this.
But like you went. Yeah. That's awesome. That's how you pick a distro.
It kills the bias because you're not like, oh, that's not popular. I don't know, or that's not as well known, or
that's a good point.
So you basically you spin this bottle around, and then you got to kiss the distro that that you ended up on, and it doesn't matter if the distro might seem strange or unusual, or you don't know them that well. I mean, the distro that well, and you gotta pucker up and give them a smooch. You gotta play a game of kiss the ISO.
Yes,
kiss the ISO.
7 minutes with a package manager. No, I kind of like that. I mean,
but it's true. I mean, that's a really healthy way of doing it. But
just rid of the bias. Yeah, I'm just going to do this now.
Pick distributions that are outside your comfort zone. I like to start there, and then from there, if it's not working, you begin to come back up to the more common, popular ones. And in that way, you do stumble upon those gems in the pile of coal. You're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It does happen. They do exist. You will find that distro. It's like, They
do. Yeah, some of the lesser known distros are amazing. Yeah, and you just don't know it. Like PCLinuxOS, like you're loving it, but does it get the press when a PCLinuxOS thing happens, which usually is never? Does no
social media presence
articles
at all.
written? None, right? Which I honestly kind of respect it. Like it makes me think, oh, these people understand, because I kind of don't want to have a PC social media presence either.
IRC and forum, or they might even have a BBS at one point, but that's IRC, and they do PDF magazines. PDF magazines, guys. I mean, I'm just saying. Oh, how without fail.
Oh,
right.
Man.
Yeah, buddy of mine stumbled on Void because he kind of just went outside his comfort zone
too. Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this run it init system is just, loved it."
It is interesting, right?
It's cool, it's fun. It's like, okay,
I agree, Eric. There's no right way. No. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's, as they say in the good book, and Linux distros is the same way. There's no wrong way, and you know what? You don't even have to go with Linux. Jump over to Haiku. Jump over to FreeBSD. Why not? Well, don't do FreeBSD. But, some of the other ones. No, seriously,
one of the other
FreeBSD is fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, NetBSD. Go to NetBSD or PCBSD. Just stay away from the FreeBSD. The FreeBSD folks don't like the word free very much. No. I don't really know why they call it FreeBSD. It's more like lock down and make fun of you for being a human BSD.
Just call it BSD.
Anti-hugging BSD. Yeah.
DSD. Okay. I'd run that.
But I mean, there's so many great operating systems in the free software space with umpteenth number of package managers and environments, but most of the applications that most people use are available for all of them. Yeah. So whether you're running PCBSD, Haiku, or Ubuntu, you're gonna be running LibreOffice on all of them. You're gonna have decently modern WebKit based web browsers on all of them. You got a Unixy POSIXy terminal on all of them. You got Bash here. You got DOSBox on all of them. You got DOSBox. It's an operating system. Boom, you're done. And there's no really wrong way. Like I don't know. Like I don't really kind of get caught up in the Linux distro wars much or the package manager wars. I have my preferences just after years of getting cranky and crusty, but like those are just preferences. And like Matt Hartley, he can run PCLinuxOS. I've got like a Debian box here, and I got PCLinuxOS over there, and I have an OpenSUSE machine again. I've had an OpenSUSE machine since I left the OpenSUSE board like 2 years ago, and I put OpenSUSE Tumbleweed on again because a friend was talking about doing it, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of got burnt out on it. I put it on, and I'm like, you know what? I remember why I like this so much. It has a lot going for it. Don't think I'm going to put it on my main rig over here, but it's still pretty rad. Like, there's no right way. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's, Not sorry, Reese's. I don't know. I really want a Reese's peanut butter cup. Right
as long
now.
as you're not using the GNOME desktop, you're not using GNOME 3, you're fine. No, I'm just kidding. No, in all honesty, I would say that I would recommend picking a desktop environment that is very is pretty old school, because then you can graduate from there. It just lets you get used to where things are at without hot corners and things flopping out at you and plasma widgets and all this other stuff. Yeah, right. It can be really...
no one wants the flopping.
No one
wants that.
The floppening will stop here if you stick with like XFCE.
The great floppening. I just, You know what? I'm a big fan of the kind of more old desktop environments too. I love CDE. CDE is tight. The common desktop environment, that old one, like IRIX workstations had those for a long time, and old HPUX boxes used. Like, I love that one. It's buggy as all get out on Linux, but I still love it. It's fast as heck. Mate is a great choice just because it's GNOME too, and they spent so many years just perfecting that usability wise, and it's fast and it's lightweight and it looks nice. So I
will say, for gamers, you're really going to want to be XFCE or Mate. I'm just going to put that out there. You don't have a lot of the weird composite stuff. It's just you're going to have you're going to want to be in that department.
To be fair, I have had problems on the gaming side under KDE, but less so lately under current GNOME. Current GNOME has gotten better in that regard.
Okay, because it was pretty bad for a while.
It was pretty bad. I had issues with it too. It was it caused problems, especially with modern
frame rates per second.
Oh yeah, horrible frame rates, weird flashy issues, all sorts of stuff. But you know what? It's gotten a lot better. So again, no wrong answer, Eric. Settle on something. Pick something.
A distro with
spin
mirror.
The bottle. Spin the bottle with the distro and the desktop environment, all of it. Live with it for a week and let us know how it goes. Send it in and say, I ended up doing this because Matt told me to spin the bottle. Here's why that was a horrible idea and you ruined my life. Let us know, and we will tell everyone else. And then we'll laugh at you and be like, no, seriously, this is the real answer. We were lying to you before.
Linux distros, they're a cheap date. There you go. So.
Cheap date. And again, this show is brought to you by Pogo Linux. Go check out PogoLinux.com and Linode.com/Lunduk. Do those things. And I think literally if you get it on like today or tomorrow, it's Linode.com/Lunduk Cyber Week, I believe is what it is. If you want to know for sure, I did a video yesterday where I interviewed the guy from Linux Fest Northwest. In that video, I had the URL right. So go check that URL. Go check that video out. Read that, watch that, get the URL, and then you get the $100 thing. I think it's still going on as of today, but I think it's done by Monday. So chop with that.
Look at you getting URLs right. I mean, wow. I mean, how far we've come, right? Success, kid.
Yeah, the guy in the background. Let's see. I've got a 8186 Palm Top, a 24K of RAM TRS-80, and a Macintosh PowerBook 180C with, brace yourself for it, 16 megs of RAM. So everyone hold on to themselves. That's what I got behind me. So that's how I get URLs correct. If you want URLs, go over to lunduke.com. That has links to everything else I do. I'm thinking, so I've been kind of like toying around with things lately, and I think I'm going to start pulling away again from the social medias and the whatnot. So if you want to get a hold of me, email and the BBS. Those are the two great ways. So brian@lunduke.com or go to bbs.lunduke.com via Telnet. There's more information at lunduke.com. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me. I do also check my comments on my Patreon posts. And if you guys want to help subscribe to the show, you get email alerts when there's new articles, new videos, and helps make the show possible. And I might be more likely to see your messages. Go to lunduke.com, click the Patreon links, and you can buy shirts, blah, 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 blah. But more importantly, right there, that guy to my side, he's Matt Hartley. Matt Hartley, tell them things about Matt Hartley. Come up with Matt Hartley-based chunks of knowledge and impart their knowledge on everybody.
The easiest way to interact with me is to join my Patreon, Patreon/FreedomPenguin. That's patreon.com/FreedomPenguin. It's pretty easy to do. Got a lot of great how-to stuff on there. I might even do some. I think I'm going to add in some of how I do my aliases with fish, for example. I think that's going to be coming up here pretty quick, and because that's fun. Yeah, like when I do, a SSD trim.
Sounds delicious, right?
Ooh.
Now. That sounds so
I
good.
do got some clever aliases. Yeah. Fish and chips. That would be cool.
Alias.
You just type that out and fish and chips appear. Long John Silver standing on my desk going.
But seriously, patreon.com/freedompenguins. There you go. You can get a hold of the Hartley, and once you get a hold of a Hartley, you don't let go of a Hartley.
You go full Macho Man Randy Savage on that.
Thank you.
So I instantly get it.
You knew I was going with the Randy Savage. You can watch this show over on Library. Big earth-shattering news. I am now, as of this last week, the number 3 show on Library.
Wow.
That's right.
Nice.
Me and Matt jibber-jabbering about Linuxy stuff is the number 3 channel. We've beat out channels like Minute Physics and like tons of other ones that are huge
People
over
that
on
are
YouTube.
Educating you or providing value.
Yeah.
We've nuked that.
I'm beating out shows with value, shows by actual scientists, shows with actual recording, editing, and production value. It is insane. Oh, I'm loving it. So right now, so Minute Physics is still hot on my heels. They're number 4 right now, but they're not going to catch up. I got 2 more to beat down, but you know what? They're in striking distance.
Nice.
I am making it a personal goal. I want to be the number 1 most subscribed to channel on Library. I think I can actually do it. And the only chance I have to do it is to do it before Library's user numbers get too big. Yeah. Because once they're too big, I'm going to get sunk because there's 1,000,000,001 amazing people that edit their videos and put little swoopity animations and things. I don't do that. So
clever cutscenes.
I need to get about 1,000 more people to subscribe to me on Library. And then boom, number 1. And then I'm going to screenshot that and post it forever. And that's my big thing. If you haven't yet, even if you don't intend to use Library, even if you don't, help me out here. Download it, go to my channel, which is just at Lunduke, subscribe, and if you don't want to ever use it again, fine. I just want the subscription numbers at this point. Like, my download numbers are great. I'm popular on the platform. I've already established that. But I want to win, and I am not opposed to subterfuge in order to get there. Now, I'm not going to install like 1,000 different ones on all my machines to make it happen. I want it to be real people clicking the subscribe button. So if you haven't, go subscribe to it. You get the MP4 without any DRM. That's pretty great.
Right.
And you get to make me number 1. Now the Linux Gamer is currently number 5.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. So what I'd like to do, if you subscribe to 2 channels, subscribe to his as well,
Right.
because how cool would it be to have the number 1 and number 2 channels across the library platform be about Linux?
Seriously. Well, it sets a precedent, right?
Right? I want to send a message with that. I don't know what the message is. I don't know who the message is for, but I want to send it in the mail, first class. I like making postal references. All right,
So 80s wrestling, I love it.
I want fish and chips now. Matt Hartley, thank you for being Matt Hartley all the time. The internet is better for you having been Matt Hartley. So continue to be Matt Hartley as long as you can stand it. I know it's got to be hard.
It's tough. So tough.
And also, Matt Hartley, before we head off into the sunset, this isn't Linux related.
Okay.
Could you recommend a TV show to watch for people? About once a week, Matt Hartley and I will be, hey, what kind of, when do you want to record the show? And we'll talk about it a little bit. And then inevitably it comes out, I'll think about that as soon as I'm done watching this episode of Different Strokes. Like he'll randomly pull out like this random 1983 or 1976 TV show. It's like, hold on. Lou Ferrigno is about to rip his shirt and go all green. Let me tell you what to watch. So, Matt Hartley, what should I and the Linux-loving people of the world who understand that older shows are often better, what should we be watching right now?
Taxi, all day long.
Now, are we talking like Andy Kaufman Taxi or Sans Andy Kaufman Taxi?
I'm talking Andy Kaufman's fine. He's great.
Thank you very much.
especially the first 2 seasons, he's fantastic. It's
he's
great.
Glorious. Yeah,
but
before he kind of gets burnt out.
Christopher Lloyd.
Oh. Amazing, right?
When they did the episode where they were talking specifically about jobs they did previous to doing the taxi, where he does the door salesman thing, I was on the floor banging the floor laughing.
Such a good episode.
Because he's like, plug this in. Oh, that's right. So I'm not going to spoil it, but
good. It's so good. I mean, the cast is amazing. Plus, you got Danny DeVito, Judd Hirsch.
Danny DeVito's off the chain. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is the cast amazing? I would argue to say that there has never been a superstar comedy cast like Taxi. And I include like the likes of Seinfeld and Friends and all of that. They ain't nothing compared to Taxi. And I don't mean that negatively because I love me some Seinfeld, but the cast, I mean, it is literally like 5 or 6 Tony Danza legends.
Yes.
Pure legendariness. And
Jeff Conway.
Jeff Conway was in it. Yeah. Legends. It is amazing. Couldn't agree more. All right. With that important Linuxy information in your craw.
And if you want to do some Linuxy stuff, first 2 seasons of Mr. Robot are great. Everything else is crap. But first 2 seasons were awesome because there was lots of accurate Linux stuff in it, and that's kind of fun, Lots of, I see you run KDE there, Mr. Dude. It's like, I'm more of a GNOME guy myself.
That's just amazing dialogue,
right? It was pretty.
All right, I need some fish and chips. Go away, everybody. I love you guys. See you later.